First of all, thank you for all of the help that you, as a Sangha, as a community, that you give to this mandala, this monastery, this group, people studying the Dharma. Please continue to help us if you can. This morning's Dharma talk is titled Beyond Understanding, Beyond. So you understand, we have things we understand. And then the spiritual path is beyond that. I'm not the first one to talk about this. Sometimes I say this to people when they go into book study and they study Dogen. I say, I don't understand, but what do they want to do? They don't understand it because they don't understand it in a conventional way. It's beyond the conventional understanding. So, and I have thanks to ran into some material by our friend in the UK. It was a reading on YouTube where that's Koku, who joins some of our study groups occasionally, and he's a transmitted priest living in the UK, and he's been doing some readings on YouTube that are from a piece that was written in. I have to have some notes here to remember. Written by Dogen Zenji in 1234, the spring of 1234, and it's called Gakudo yojin-shu. It means practical advice for pursuing the Buddhist truth. So I'm going to read a little bit of what Koku has been reading from that. What is it, 10 talks?
10. Yeah, it's 10 chapters.
10 chapters, and it doesn't fall into the Shobogenzo, and it doesn't fall into the Eihei Koroku or the anything else. It seems to be a separate area that you could, but you can listen to Koku read this on YouTube. Buddhist students, this is a Dogen, this is a translation by Master Gudo Nishijima. And it goes like this. Buddhist students should know that the Buddhist truth is beyond thinking, discrimination, supposition, reflection, perception, or understanding. It's beyond it. What are we going to do with that if we can't know it, see it, smell it, taste it? If we can't really, well, maybe we can smell it. Maybe we can taste it. That's an area, those areas of the sense fields are beyond thinking, although the thinking process is, if there is a conflicted ego, self-centeredness, narcissism, and paranoia in the consciousness that wants this and doesn't want that is picking and choosing based on open fear, maybe that ego mind can usurp whatever else is happening in the sense fields and interpret. We all know what this is. You have your own version of it, I'm sure, or you wouldn't be in this room, or you wouldn't be on this Zoom screen. So what I have, my way of saying that, and I've been saying it for a long time, you don't have to understand. And that's addressing something very similar, maybe if not the same thing. I haven't talked to Dogen. But I say study it anyway. I say return to the study, return. Some people, especially people who are studying a particular text and try to teach out of it, maybe might not want to do that. Those monks who are in teacher training, do it anyway. Return. You don't have success happening when you sit down and face the wall. It's difficult. It's disturbing sometimes. The difficulty you have in your mind stream starts to get worse, and you notice that you feel like you're more at odds with yourself, at war with yourself or with others, or blaming others for how you're feeling. Do it anyway. Sit down, hold still. Just observe, just observe. This is taught, the teachings of the Buddha are taught so many different ways depending on the culture that they arose in. And am I right and they're incorrect? No, it's whatever situation it is, we'll just do the best we can. It is so incredibly complicated. You don't have to understand. It is beyond understanding. I don't see anything else there that I would particularly have to read. So what you watch when you're meditating, or possibly when you're in book study and you're looking at a text, this is why it's so important to study with others, with Sangha, so that you can see that the way that one person is understanding or even asking questions around a particular classical or reading or commentary or whatever it may be, or actual teaching, a line out of the Heart Sutra, the Diamond Sutra, etc., how that shows up. And then you react to that, or ask a question that shows the way in which you are misunderstanding, that shows the way in which you are grasping at something. It's the grasping part that needs to be seen, not the thoughts, the stories, the logic, the rationality. That's what the ego will grasp, because it knows that's ego's territory, is logic, reasonable, until they perhaps run into someone like Vasubandhu, and then he ties them up with their own rope. Go beyond understanding. So the starting of that, the beginning of that was seeing, is actually, you could say, acknowledging that you don't understand, but participate anyway. You don't understand, but ask a question out of that. It might be as simple as, I don't understand that. If you come this direction, if 5 people all said the same thing, well, all I have to do is look in your eyes, and I know what you don't understand. But I can't do it for you. All I can do is encourage you, maybe even inspire you a little bit, or maybe piss you off. Whatever happens, I have no say-so about it. If you think I'm over here deciding things, it isn't that that I don't move this direction or that direction, or say this and not say this, or change gears in the middle of the stream. If you can do that, it just means that I'm not thinking about it. It's quite a relief. And it's also extremely painful. Happy birthday.
Shushu.
SokukoJi. But with this kind of an instruction beyond understanding, or you don't have to, then we're addressing the very thing you've been using your whole life to navigate hope and fear, right and wrong, up and down, to make sure you don't upset your mom or dad or your teachers, and try to live up to certain standards. This, the whole idea, the whole Western education culture and everything is based on separation, on relative truth, a really strong grasping at relative truth. We see it in the world all over the place. We watch the news for 15 minutes, and you can see that there's no way to fix this, because anyone, if you talk to someone on either side, shall we say, they're going to have a kind of logic there that is interesting. Even the ones that are extremely insane and self-centered and grasping, still there's some kind of a logic behind that makes it, at least so you can see why they would do that. But you might have to talk to 50 people. It is an understanding, but there's no one who understands. You get completely left out of it. That's kind of how it feels. Wisdom is just wisdom. Wisdom sees wisdom. And if there's any little shred of ego or self-centeredness that's still pulling, pushing, and shutting down, there's going to be a lot of embarrassment there. I didn't see that. I didn't see this. Why didn't I see this? Why am I continuing to torture myself and torture others? Don't look for a why. You just look for a why, you will get caught. It's a trap. It's a trap that something is wrong and you need to fix it. This is incorrect. You just need to see it. If you see this, everything has access to you. Everybody's suffering, your own suffering, centuries of your own suffering that you've been shoving away and covering up. Don't believe me. Consider it. Consider it. How do you consider it? Face the wall. How do you consider it? If you feel like what I'm saying has some weight or has some a quality of being the truth or some kind of accuracy to you, or addressing something you're having difficulty finding, then the very best thing you can do is sit down, hold still, and watch that which does not understand. It is beyond that. It is beyond the understanding. It is beyond the understanding. It's not a goal. There are no standards. You won't get anywhere. Nothing will happen. And what does continue to happen is an illusion. Pretty intense one. I'm having a very intense illusion right here in how I feel. But it's not incorrect. It's not wrong. And it's not that you shouldn't take some aspirin. I'm not saying you go the other extreme and don't eat until noon, or don't eat anything after noon, or don't have any sexual relations, all that baloney. But in past centuries, it may have been necessary because of the structure of society to actually set up those kinds of standards or those kinds of guidelines, or we might not even have a Buddhism happening now. And the way things are looking with the rest of the world, to put it that way, we might not have a world. There's just so much chaos going on. Beyond. It's not even that. It's not even beyond it, because then we're using more relative pointers, which work to some extent. Sometimes that's the only thing that works, is direct pointing. Give me some questions. Help me with this. Don't hesitate. Come up with a question you thought about, but you've never really asked me about, because you are concerned about how it might look to others, or how it might look to me. Come this way and ask me. Go ahead.
You know,
You know.
so you say it takes direct pointing, but you also say you have to see it for yourself. I can't just tell you. I don't understand why you can't just tell us.
I can. Nothing's happening. Everything you think is happening is an illusion. Does that help you? You can read that anywhere. It's all over the place. You could probably quote, based on the reading that you've done over the years, you could probably quote half a dozen texts that are talking about that. Everything is unreal. This is unreal, vividly unreal in emptiness, yet there's still form. But it's gone. It's impermanent. It shows up. It's a spark and it goes away. But even that is an illusion. That is not a reality that's going away, which makes it an illusion. Don't do that. More. Don't stop.
You don't mind. So for having trouble seeing the illusion, can there be further pointing that, like, can we get hints or something?
Can you get hints?
Hints.
Hints.
About our individual. Yeah. Where we're stuck.
How about some hints? You have any hints? They don't. Who was it that used to come here so much? Who would ask me? That's the way he would ask questions. What was that fellow's name? We don't need to go to it, but there was one. But that was his question. Have you got any hints? You actually say that. Yeah, sit a lot, study the Dharma. But he would ask the same question again. I probably answered it the same way. Very sweet fellow. I liked him a lot. I don't know what happened to him.
You don't mind. I'm just wondering what further things we can do to see our, maybe it's called our primary affliction.
So as soon as you begin to see that you or me or any of us, we try to fix it or correct it, or we make excuses. So we fix or correct. It's all in the area of passion, aggression, and ignorance. Fix or correct or adjust, or feel bad because we can't quite get that, or else we go the other way and just justify. Well, this is just true because of him, because of what she said or what they did. We're just going to be just validated over and over again and reinforce that area. Yeah.
You know, well, I can't come up with a more specific question.
Wanda,
What is direct pointing?
you just got a taste of it this morning. You don't have to say what that was about, but you could characterize what was being pointed at because you seem to have an understanding there that I don't see very often with you. You got embarrassed about something? Do you say anything about it?
Divine. Almost like you're holding the mirror up in how you respond to us. But is there some quality of receiving in a direct pointing?
Yes, if you receive it and you feel like you have to figure it out or you don't know what that means, then you've just left the pointing for what you think about it. We're trying to figure it out. You don't really want to give up your self-centeredness as the person who knows shit. You want to be the person who receives the teaching and understands it. It's worse than that. It's devastating to the self-centered part of the mind. It's heartbreaking, devastating. You need to receive that. When I say you need to, you do whatever you want to do. It's this lifetime has an apparent quality of being of having a free will. You can do whatever you want. Whatever you do is your karma. You can't get free of dependent origination.
Your bowing is a direct pointing, always painful.
It can be. Might be just confusing for a while. But it's whatever it is, for the one who is for the teaching function there, it's the whatever's happening, there's happening at the where the pointing is coming from. Because you are not separate from anybody. The teacher doesn't suddenly become some kind of elevated person up in the sky, sitting on a high throne with huge hats. That may be necessary to actually address a whole culture, to make sure people continue to return to this in some way, maybe just by offering, maybe just by dana, by donation, by helping in so many ways. And then for some, people see it on a deeper level and they begin to offer everything that comes up. All the frustration, instead of trying to stop the anger, instead of trying to stop the passion, aggression, ignorance, pride, envy, jealousy, instead of trying to stop that or control it or stop the trigger that's causing it or stop the situation itself, just when that comes up, just offer it. That's what this is. That's what this is. This is the greediness and the hope and fear. And this is relatively, this is the generosity, which there's no giver, no giving, no gift. This is a threefold purity that is a traditional teaching that's been around for a long time.
Divine, can we receive direct pointing over a period of time? So in other words, can we reflect on it, even though in the moment we left it for thinking?
Yes, we can. This is why we continue, why we went into retreat a year ago. Now we are going to go back into retreat again, or just like I'm very much looking forward to in 2 months, a month-long period of Ango, which we basically just kind of created, and which we're inviting you to come in and for 1 month out of the 12, sit down, hold still, do nothing for the whole time, other than ordinary functions that you would have to have. I think that went pretty well last year. A lot of people were very grateful. We had a lot of feedback from people who, why don't we just do this all the time? Not such a bad idea, except why don't we do that all the time? Didn't we discuss that? Because we didn't do any studying. I don't think we had any book studies for 28 days. And this year's 29 days, isn't it? So this is going to be really hard. But I'm inviting you, I'm sure everyone here is inviting you. You will be able to come on Zoom if the technology is working, if the missiles haven't fallen on our country or on your country, wherever you're at. If we can continue to do this together, we do it together. That's why Sangha is so important, including others. Good question. Yes,
When you're bowing, does beyond understanding imply standards?
it probably could, as we try to understand what the hell that even means. How can it be, if it's beyond understanding, then you can't understand it. So the ego mind will have a lot of input there. And the input is powerful. It's logic, it's reason. So this is ridiculous. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do what that guy says. I'm going to do what's that other guy's name? Or person's name. Look for alternatives, different ways of working with it. I'm saying you can do this if you sit down and you observe what continues to shuffle along, and don't grasp it, don't reject it, and don't ignore it. And the practice seems to be seeing how you can't help but do that. You can't help but grasp or reject or judge or evaluate, and just watch that. Watch that. And eventually the idea there is, with an awareness practice, eventually the observer part, you start, because you're eventually, since you're not adding up on so much, because you've been doing this for years, you're starting to notice the fundamental nature of consciousness, which is to generate a being connected with an appearance of a body form that is somebody that can win or lose, get ahead or fall behind. So therefore it brings about what? Spiritual materialism, scientific materialism, material materialism, and all the other materialisms, trying to get something, trying to grasp something. A spiritual path, there isn't anything separate from you, separated. So the idea of grasping anything just brings you into the merry-go-round, or the Coney Island of the mind. There's just lots of things going on that look like they're separate things, separate sideshows. Go ahead, Jishin.
Jishin bowing. In that quote which you shared with us, you said Buddhist truth is beyond thinking and perception. So when you say, I can see it, when you are pointing to us,
Yes.
What is that seeing if it's not a perception?
It's not beyond. The beyond is better than that, worse than that. Initially, it starts out as vision, or possibly feeling, or possibly could even happen in the area of sound. Any of the sense fields can begin to not be entrained by the crazy self-centered part of the consciousness that is paranoid and wants control, wants to be somebody going somewhere. It's almost like the ego mind doesn't care if they're winning or losing, as long as there's somebody that is there that can blame something for it and reinforce that self-centeredness. That self-centeredness wants to live. It wants to be someone. So when I say I'm looking at it, it's just a way of talking about it. Actually, I can go further. I don't see anything. But even that is a commentary on sight. You cannot use language and not be trapped by relative truth unless your understanding goes beyond everything you're saying. If I'm sitting up here and saying things, there's no person here who is kind of congratulating myself for what a wonderful job I'm doing as a Dharma teacher. All I have to do is look at all your blank looks on your faces. And that way I know I'm failing miserably. But that's how it's done. It is a failure. But there's no one there that fails. There's just this. And it transcends everything. Even time and space are irrelevant. Distance is irrelevant. Locality is irrelevant. The structure we have for past and future, unreal. I'm not saying it's not there. It's vivid. And it can be a nightmare. Especially if all the nerve endings in the physical form are being abraded by what? Shrapnel?
Very bowing.
Go ahead, sir.
Very bowing. Could you say more, Sokuzan, what you're pointing at when you say offering what arises? Bowing.
This has to do with the teacher. There needs to be somebody that is pointing at this. Otherwise, or knows something about, understands, or is aware of this. They're all relative words. So, and you or I or anybody could come around and say, you just said aware. Well, there has to be somebody who's aware. There has to be something that they're aware of. That's true. But what goes beyond that is to see that's an illusion that you are entrained or trapped by or mesmerized by or hypnotized by, that you think is real, and you're willing to hurt other people, hurt yourself, fight for it, to make sure that people understand how you feel. This is when somebody goes out and blows a bunch of people away. It's because they when I say because, I don't know the actual because, but they want attention. They want to reify their self. They want to have some kind of power, or they want to show everyone how miserable they are. And people don't believe me. Well, I'm going to show them. I'm going to prove to everybody. Well, what is this? Belief that there are separate beings. There are no separate beings. If you think otherwise, then go ahead. Think that way. Kayun.
Bowing, in that same area is the offering of confusion to the teacher an outflow, Bowing?
Yes, it's a deliberate outflow. You're deliberately, just like the intention to see the truth is a deliberate outflow towards emptiness, towards space, towards shunyata, towards there's nothing there. There isn't anything there. And this is the way you can address the polarities in the mind, by connecting with that and seeing that the Dharma is teaching this. It's a relative structure in the Dharma. If you read any text, they're always juggling things. But there's an understanding that goes beyond everything, goes beyond understanding. So therefore, it's not conventional understanding. You could say it's a seeing, and I think it has aspects. There's kind of post-it notes around it that make it to be part of that particular sense field, sight. But it's beyond that. It's beyond. But once you see what it is, it's not beyond anything. It's not separate from anything. There's no more differentiation in desire. Even the desire is an illusion. That doesn't mean you won't have some cheesecake. We're not talking about being somebody who has no desires and somebody who's, even though it's talked about, desirelessness. Misunderstanding. The way it looks here. And who you're listening to, this person. More, Kayun?
Bowing, I haven't quite formulated this into a question, but I guess what's showing up for me in the moment is the way that you tell us not to talk to our partners or friends about our needs.
I do.
And I feel that I sometimes set up that standard with you as a teacher, that I want to protect you from my blathering. Is that a misunderstanding, Bowing?
Yes.
Kayun, Bowing. So when you say that you're not here to have a conversation, does that just mean when you're sitting up there and that in private, it's okay to whine?
Have a conversation. Well, it's going to be different in private. It's going to be different. It's going to be different each time this person sits up here and talks. I have no idea who I am, where I'm going, or what I'm about to say. I mean, I have to plan something. And these days it's getting more and more. If I don't do something, I'll get up here and I'll say, so what should I talk about? And it'll be mountains and rivers every time. So I have to ask myself a question. Okay, you don't have to understand, beyond understanding something I say quite often. So I'm asking, so that I want to talk about it a little bit. So you might possibly be helped by when we continue to run into this, I don't understand that. And some people think they understand, and they actually are grasping at something that prevents the part of the consciousness, when I say it this way, that is beyond understanding, because they understand so well, they come to the point where they want to teach others. Let me tell you what Dogen meant. That's what happens. This doesn't mean that in a conversation or in a discussion group in a book study that you might not share that with others. Of course you would. Every one of you know when you're stepping beyond what you understand into some kind of speculation just because you want to hold forth and be a Dharma teacher. Or maybe you don't. Jen Ziegler.
Jen Bowing. Is there a difference between understanding and seeing? Bowing.
So they're words. And so I would say the differentiation is going to show up there in some ways. Understanding, seeing is connected with the actual visual sense, as you already know, but it's a perception like the banner on the other end of the Zendo says perception only. So that's just a couple of words, and it's a conceptual idea that is trying to help you see that what you're perceiving and the subjectivity that's perceiving that those are not two different things, nor are they the same thing. That's why it's so difficult. One who has realized this or understood this, there's nothing else to do. That doesn't mean they've stopped learning, because they're still in a relative situation. So they're still going to be understanding, but that learning might have more about how to help people who are struggling with their passion, aggression, ignorance, hope, and fear, pride, and jealousy. Jen, go ahead.
Jen Bowing. Last week you said, don't look for the, excuse me, don't look for the truth, look for the lie or the
Yes.
lies. How can I do that? Bowing.
So you're practicing shikantaza, you're sitting still and just watch the movement of the mind, and you'll see the way when certain kinds of stories arise, maybe spontaneously, you just happen to start remembering something someone said to you 3 days ago because you've been sitting on the cushion for 45 minutes. And for a while, there wasn't too much going on, maybe just a low level of discursive thought going on. And then this particular story about what she said when you said this and this. And what I'm saying is that right there, that's the primary lie. And then we add more lies onto it, trying to understand it or interpret it, which is the trap of understanding. The trap of understanding would be, I don't think I've ever used that expression before, but I'm using it now because if you think you understand, you don't. You might have an understanding, but it is grounded in the relative right and wrong area of culture, society, and of psychology. And what do we have to do? Look at that. So be aware of that. If you try to fix it, or if you feel kind of embarrassed because of what you're doing and try to be a better person, it gets very, very close. It gets down to the quick of where the ego mind is actually at. And I'm encouraging you or anyone to just continue, sit a lot. Eventually that can get more and more painful as you continually, I'm not saying you refuse it because you're not at war, but you just don't go in and try to repair things that look like they're coming apart. You don't buy into the relative area. You actually feel that. That's why it's so necessary to make offerings to the teacher. Not because I need an offering. If it's a true teacher, they don't need anything. They don't need you. They don't need to be alive. The needs are gone. That doesn't mean that neediness in some area might come up. There's still a human form. So any number of things could come up. What is not added is the self that feels that way. There's just a need for this or that, hunger. Chop wood, carry water is the old way of saying that. You're still going to function. You probably will function in a more expedient manner when you're not clouded over with fear, paranoia, worry about what's going to happen or how you can fix what you think is wrong about you. More, Jen?
Jen Bowing. Is any relative understanding a lie? Bowing.
Well, relatively, it's the illusion, but that doesn't mean that within the illusion that you don't stay inside of a burning house because it's an illusion. So I'm just going to stay in here and turn into ashes. So you still relate to it there. You still chop wood, carry water. But you're beyond it. You will actually know this, and it won't be the kind of knowledge that comes and goes. Just know that you're here. You know that the consciousness is not separate. Your consciousness and everyone else's consciousness are not two different things, nor are they the same thing. That is why it's so difficult, because you can't find a position there. There's two ways of just denying the whole thing. It has no reality beyond your projections and perceptions of it. Or let's keep going. If you have more, don't stop. No?
Jen Bowing. I guess the question I have is how I'm not sure I know how to detect the lies.
That's it. That is it. You've said it. I'm not sure I know how to detect the lies. You've just taken the credential away from ego. And what do you have left there? Consciousness only. But you won't know it. You won't have I think I'm just consciousness only. How about you guys? not doing as well as me. I'm pretty much consciousness only, since I don't judge anyone. I know everybody wants to be me, but probably not going to happen. Okay, enough stupid humor. Come again with that. Say more about that. Elaborate on that, what you just said. I'm not sure I know how to detect. What else is in that comment you just made? Anything?
Jen Bowing. I know there's something in there, but I'm having a hard time plucking it out. I'm unsure I know how to escape the circle, the circling.
Yeah. So there it is. That's the illusion that you believe the illusion. So therefore you're deluded by it. So therefore you feel like you have to escape that. And a lot of teachings actually address that. Teaches 7 points of mind training, gives you lots of slogans and ideas. I even have some that I will give you, that if I see you're really have your head totally stuck down in the swamp of opinion, idea, judgment, hope, and fear, I might give you some practices or something that you can do to help you with that. But there's nothing to fix. There's nothing wrong if you just see the circularity and can somehow Trungpa Rinpoche would mispronounce the word renunciation. He would call it renunciation, which quite often people Asian references will call that. What did I just say? You don't know? You're not really listening to me. Oh, no, you're listening. You're just not memorizing. I will let you off the proverbial hook. It's not about collecting anything. What needs to be collected is dependently arisen. If you need to do something, you will do it. But if you're in the cage of hope and fear, not wanting to do anything wrong and wanting to look good to people, and fear what somebody might think about what you're saying or what you're doing. It's the very nature of samsara, is to always be worried about what you think about, what they think about what you're thinking, and what they're thinking about what you're thinking about, what you shouldn't be thinking, but you have to think that because of this and this and this. It's tiring. You do not have any control over anything. Didn't you just send me something about free will, Jen? Yes. I think it was somebody coming from a different direction, not a meditator. Somebody just used out and out. Was it logic? Was it a big L word? How would you characterize it?
Sorry, my Wi-Fi is spotty. You're asking who it was? He's a neurobiologist.
Yeah. So they're pretty smart people. And he just apparently took a look at the whole thing from what I remember about it and said, you don't have free will. That's untrue. But what do we have? Find out. You can find this out yourself. You may need the teacher. You may need the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. You may need the 3 jewels for a while, but at some point, even that comes apart. But if you try to push it apart and be somebody who understands, then not particularly helpful. So Gran
Bowing, can a sensation show up in a way that's beyond understanding?
Yes.
Depending on how?
It always does. But it always does, but we add something to it. We think something but we think just with it, there's not even any timer in there. That we are the one who is feeling, in my case, this skin pain I'm dealing with. I'm the one who's feeling that, instead of it's just feeling. It's just suffering. Even that is extra, those words about it. More?
So Bowing, the beyond understanding is the identification with the sensation.
Yes, it's just sensation is self-existing, has its own dynamic. The way the illusion works is whatever you look at, that's it. If you look away from it, then that's it. And the it part is addressing ultimacy as it shows up in a relative situation, which is there's no reference point there. You have to have duality to have reference points. Sir,
Is
Zenji.
feeling vindicated always a cover up?
Pardon me?
Is feeling vindicated always a cover up?
Probably. I'm not saying there isn't a place or a way in which that may not be preventing you from seeing more deeply, but feeling vindicated, yeah, it's a little interior conversation we have. This happened, that happened, or you said this, and then you say, well, I'm vindicated. So yes, any kind of positionality on that. It's better than that, in that you're liberated from all that baloney. And it's worse than that, and that until you see it, that area, when it starts to come apart in that direction, is difficult. I mean, extremely difficult, because the ego does not want to die. It does not want to be wrong. And it could show up, depending on your style, it could show up in the form of shame or just intense sadness, or anger. Anger might be a more difficult one, because it feels so like it just reinforces the one who's angry and the reason they're angry. And we keep telling our stories. As soon as the story comes up, then we tell a story to the story. And then when that one starts to crinkle and come apart, then we tell a story to that story, and story to that story, and then a story to that story. Next thing you know, we have, the plywood of the mind. It's just lamination after lamination. You can't even get down to the original situation, which is consciousness only, just awareness with nothing particular happening in it. No, nothing coming or going. This is possible, but it seems very necessary to watch what comes and goes without adding anything to it. No agreement, no disagreement, no ignorance. And the path shows up as seeing how you don't control that. You have no say-so about that. You cannot be this person who does not add, subtract, or divide. So that's why it's so powerful, because eventually you could almost say that you're backing up out of, I'll just paint a picture for you. You're standing here with a world that seems so real, the Coney Island of the mind, all the things you can do, not do, the things you like, the things you don't like, all of your abilities, all of your handicaps, all of that is all here, all there. And you just, through sitting practice of meditation, you back up into eternity. It's like falling off a cliff. You just fall. It's not that, it's a metaphor. But then you see that nothing has happened, because there's still a human form here. You haven't killed yourself. There never was anyone to kill. You could kill yourself, but it would not stop that insane rotation of the mind. You would be looking for another body where you could fulfill what you wanted and get revenge. Not just you, but anybody. So you just sit and sit until you see what this is. See what this is. You can do this. If you're listening to me, you're ready to hear this. If you, and I've said this many times, I'm not trying to chase people away, but if this just seems like I'm full of it, maybe I am. And you should find somebody, you should find a true teacher. If you don't think this is a true teaching from this person, find somebody that will help you, that can meet you where you're at. If you don't feel like I'm doing that, because I'm just doing the best I can with what I see. Yuhong, SokukoJi. Navid.
Navid bowing.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Is feeling the same as the state of not knowing? Bowing.
Is feeling the same as not knowing?
As the state of not knowing, yes.
You were doing pretty good until you said the state of not knowing. And then it's not exactly that. Not knowing is not a particular state, because there has to be someone to not know. And so when we come to feeling, if there's just feeling, And there's no one who's feeling it. There's no identity that's added on to protect whatever this body-mind complex is that feels like it's going somewhere or not going somewhere or losing something or gaining something. I'm not telling you anything you don't have experience with. More, Naveed?
Maybe bowing. Even when we feel there's a knowing comes up. Is that also a knowing or not knowing?
Are you trying to trap me?
No.
Okay, then I agree with you.
Thank you.
What just happened there? What happened? You see it? Can you I might not be able to put words to it myself, but I'm asking you if you can. How did that feel? Tell me.
Not knowing?
Yes. Was that your response?
Yes.
Okay. I agree with that.
Thank you, Sokuzan.
Yes, sir. It isn't that you won't know. You will know. It goes beyond. This is why it's called, given a different name, called wisdom or jnana or prajna or pranya. Probably one of those. Chisho has abandoned us and gone to India for a couple of years, I think, right? So we don't have our Sanskrit scholar here to help us. So I'll just speak Sanskrit however I want to. Yes, sir.
Bowing, does beyond understanding include a relative understanding?
I think it includes everything. It's just there isn't anything else but this. So if you see it, then everything is the truth and is true and untrue at the same time. That's why it shows up as an illusion, and this is why it is seeing the illusion for an illusion. You're looking at the ultimate. You're looking at something the ultimate can do. It's like a cosmic clown that's just juggling things. It's just like it's completely light and soft and generous, and is not at war with anything. And it's not a position. It's not an identity. It's not someone. It's just this. And if that is if your path, your shining path, which is your name, comes you come to see what that is, there is no more path. There's just the shining. And even the shining is not a movie. It's just this. It doesn't even have light. It has no polarity anymore. And yet there's still this you're still walking through a room, you're still having gravity is still pulling you down, you still have to do your laundry.
Bowing. It seems I can have a misunderstanding of the idea of beyond, thinking it means like without understanding. Can you say more about what you mean when you're saying something's beyond?
I'm just using a relative to have the understanding that I don't understand. We're grasping it, not understanding. I think I understand that we're grasping the understanding. Go ahead.
Is observing that beyond understanding?
That's a gateway to it. That's the area where that comes about. But when I say comes about, it's not an occurrence. It's an occurrence. Then it has its polarity of not having occurred yet or having already occurred. Yeah. Is this not fun? So when I say come, please, especially those of you who feel like you have a deep understanding of this, that you want to come this way and either ask questions or contradict me in some way, if you can. Okay.
Yoka Bowing, I have a question from YouTube from Brandon in Nova Scotia. How do we become spontaneous?
By seeing how unspontaneous you are. So spontaneous is someone who is spontaneous. We all have some spontaneity happening, especially when we don't feel threatened and we feel, have some Jack Daniels in us or something like that. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. What's that other liquor?
Black licorice.
Black licorice. Yeah, we have some black licorice in us. That's Unyo's favorite drug. Black licorice. So it's a very good question. So I would say we notice the spontaneity there. Otherwise, Brandon, you wouldn't even be able to ask that question. You notice there's something when you are spontaneous, it just feels good. You're there, you're present. We were all at a party, housewarming last night, and everybody there was pretty spontaneous, wouldn't you say? People were having a good time. You were, both of you. And yeah, it was a lot of spontaneity, spontaneous humor, and so on. So we like that. We would like to, how can we just be uplifted and happy without being pretentious or phony or acting things out? Seems to be necessary to look at the fear that we may be. Yeah, we have to keep our guard up, so we can't really be spontaneous because someone might, well, take advantage of us or judge that we're being too loose or sloppy or something. Or it's just anytime that we're pushing down areas of the mind stream because we're afraid of our feelings, we're afraid when you have conflicting emotions about the nature of anything, about your perception of yourself and the world, you're going to try to hide those, push those away. And consciousness finds the form it needs. And if it's happening in the particular dynamic of a self or protecting an imaginary self, you can do that. You can do this for centuries. You can do this lifetime after lifetime. Am I promoting reincarnation? No, I will not be writing any books about reincarnation. But there's something happening that is not held back or not contained by the impermanence, that the body which arises from the womb and lives, as it says in the 12 links, birth, sickness, aging, and death. It just continues to happen over and over and over again. That might even look spontaneous. Yes.
Andy Valiant.
You're next.
The ego.
But Andy's not. Andy, go ahead. Did I interrupt you too much?
Eric can go.
No, no, you go first. Then you'll know what to do.
If the
His name
ego
isn't Eric, by the way.
can't remember his
You can't remember or you can't remember.
remember.
Good one.
Working
What was your question?
if the ego doesn't go anywhere, and what does the ego perceive when it perceives beyond understanding?
It's terrified if it's included in that part of the consciousness, which it could be. It's just terrified of that. There's too much space. There's not enough reference point. So, and that's why we need something like the forms of the three jewels, or the teacher, the teaching, the community, and sitting down, holding still, and watching the movement of the mind to train our minds to emphasize the awareness aspect of consciousness, where the receiving part rather than the producing part, which produces fears. Too much dark open space there. Not going there. Can't go there. Maybe I better go back and read the operating instructions for being a human being. There are none. So did I get close?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yes, go ahead.
Andy Bowing, let's say the ego has been seen through as an illusion.
Yes.
Then what does the ego perceive?
Egos, if it's truly completely saying that the self-centeredness is unreal, it might hang around, but it can't see much. And what it sees, the consciousness doesn't buy it, doesn't sell it, doesn't ignore it, doesn't do anything with it. It's liberated, and the ego is no different than a rock on the ground. It's unreal. It's an illusion, but it's there. But it has no more imaginary authority over anything, and it is not run by hope and fear. But that self-centeredness or that ego may have been pushing along for centuries, trying to show up as somebody getting somewhere or someone not getting somewhere, some kind of position or some kind of reference point. And if that is seen through, then it just comes apart. And but there's still some dependent origination happening there. So that illusion may need to persist for another three years, 3 lifetimes. But if you see it, you see it. But there's no one who sees it. It's just consciousness only. There's the consciousness is no longer separate. The separation can show up just like this old man sitting here, this young man sitting over there. The separation is going to continue to go for as long as the chemicals are in operation and they're not interfered with by this or that. But it's unreal. Of what is real, find out. You find out by looking at the illusion. And the way you see it's an illusion is you don't agree, you don't disagree, no matter how vividly it shows up, no matter how much you're terrified, just look at it. Just eat it, receive it, smell it, taste it, touch it, feel it, think it. More?
So is the ego not perceiving anymore?
No, the ego never has perceived anything. It's just as a Trungpa Rinpoche called it, a paranoid insurance policy. It's just paranoia that has balled up into a dark fist and it's not about to give away. And it has it depends on the particular karma that's operating, but it's powerful because it looks like it's the truth to the self-centeredness. I have to remember to loosen my grip here. Once I start doing that feels pretty good. Just hang on to everything. I know what that's about. It's relatively, it feels real, but if you look at it, if you really look at it, it just comes apart. You could fundamentally just relax in the midst of your confusion or my confusion. We can just do that. No more. It's just tiring. If you look around the world, the world is a great teaching to just look at it and don't judge anybody. But if you do, make sure you know that that's also an illusion. In no way you can see what is behind someone who just killed a bunch of people somewhere. You can't go in and surface correct that just by having better gun laws. It's just I'm not saying we shouldn't have better gun laws. We should, but the people we elect should take care of that kind of relative thing. So far, they're not doing so good. But so you might operate in that area, like you were entering into politics at one point. So, well, you dodged a bullet there, didn't you? Not a very good metaphor. Go ahead, more. Thank you for the question. Appreciate it very much.
Long bow. I'm thinking about Shoto's question about beyond. And when you say that, what shows up for me is out of reach, which seems fitting with the grasping. So I'm wondering if beyond might indicate something that isn't graspable.
Totally. You can't grasp reality, but you can get semblances of or structures or ideas or whole teachings. Sometimes it's very tempting to just take verse 26 and just grasp that and just keep reciting that in the 30 verses of Asubandhu, because all the verses really, not just that one, but that's the one that comes to me. That you look at that conceptual structure there, something about that evokes a quality of being beyond thinking. At least it does that for me. More?
Not yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Should we close up? Did anyone want to sing happy birthday to him? Yes, we should. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bunyo.
Happy birthday to you, and many more.
Good. And then we're going to sing again this afternoon. You're going to get a double dose. Okay, you guys tell me what's next. I don't know.
Hi, my name is Shoto, and I am a monk at SokukoJi, where I am committed to training my mind under the guidance of my teacher, Sokuzan. We rely on your support for much of what we offer here. This includes building projects to create space for full-time and part-time practice residents. Thank you for your help.